Welcome to another episode of Content Creators Unite, the show where we discuss all things content creation. So if you want to learn how to grow your business using blog, newsletters, books, and more, you're in the right place. I'm your host, John Clements. Our guest for today's episode is Matt Cooper. So Matt's an author, he's a publisher, he's an entrepreneur with a deep passion for storytelling, communication, and blues music. And over the years, he's built successful businesses in real estate, communication, and media. He always has the goal of helping others succeed, which is why I wanted him on my show. He recently released a new book, The Entrepreneur's Handbook, that is an Amazon bestseller, and he hosts The Talking Blues, a podcast exploring the history, roots, and ongoing influence of blues music. So, Matt, welcome to the podcast.
John, thank you. That's a heck of an introduction. I appreciate that.
That is a heck
really
of an
glad
introduction.
to be here. Glad to be hanging out with content creators. It's what I do these days. So excited to hang out with you guys.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit more about yourself. I gave the Reader's Digest version, but tell us about your background, how you got into doing what you do.
Yeah, well, the Reader's Digest version, John, I am a Canadian content creator. My ancestors came over from England around 1885 on the Canard. I am the fifth generation. So I was born and raised in Toronto, came up the hard way. I did do a stint in college in the 90s, radio broadcasting and journalism, which was a fantastic learning experience for me. So my background really is broadcasting, rock radio, but I've also done real estate, as you mentioned. I've got a real estate firm. Marketing and sales has been a necessity for me to learn and to execute just to survive. And so, of course, we all find that those things tend to cross-pollinate into just about anything that you're doing. If you're doing content creation, you need to understand the sales and marketing process, or it's more of a hobby than anything else. So here I am. I'm the last of my line. I'm pushing 60. I live for myself. I answer to no one.
All right. I love it. So let's talk about content creation a little bit more, because after all, that's the name of the game here. And the reason that I actually brought you on today, well, there's two reasons. First of all, we both share a passion for blues music, which we'll get to in a minute. But you also recently co-wrote a book that actually ended up being an Amazon bestseller. It's called The Entrepreneur's Playbook. And I want to kind of dig into that. So first of all, how did this idea even come about? Like, how did this opportunity even arise for you?
Well, I have to give all the credit to a gentleman by the name of Ray Brem. Ray Brem is a respected entrepreneur and author, and it's not just an Amazon best-selling author, but a big-time New York Times best-selling author. And so what Ray does, in addition to teaching and helping people and publishing books, is he puts together co-author projects. So he gets together like-minded entrepreneurs and says, okay, this is the project we're working for. Why don't we all get together, submit a chapter on your specialty, and we'll put it together and get it out there. And it's a good calling card. And it, for somebody who wants to get a book published, you don't have to write an entire book to get it done. So that was, for me, was a great way just to get in there. So I really can't take credit for it, John. I wrote a heck of a paragraph, or I should say a chapter, but Ray Brem's the mastermind behind it all. And Ray Brem's the guy to look up on the internet if you want to more about that.
Nice. So let's talk about that for a minute. So Ray was kind of the driving force behind that. Did he reach out to you, or did you reach out to him?
Ray is a bit of an icon in the publishing industry, as you may know. So I'd been following Ray and interacting with some of his programs and learning from him. He does a great job at educating authors and publishers. And so I had a kind of a student-teacher relationship with Ray. And when he made that available, I kind of jumped on it. And I had another work in the process, a book on communication. And I thought, you know what, I can grab a chapter from my book that I haven't published yet and put it towards this one and get it out there and get the ball rolling. It makes for a heck of a business card. That's what it boils down to.
I'll say. And actually, let's talk about that for a minute, because so this book came out in, I believe, November of 2024 is when it At least that's when it hit Amazon. So how has that helped your career? How has that functioned as a calling card for you?
Well, it tends to establish a little bit of credibility, a little bit of authority in one's field, even though it didn't take a whole lot of brains to pull it off on my part. It looks cool to say that you're an Amazon author, best-selling author. And so it's introduced me to some interesting folks in the industry, not unlike yourself. It's kind of like just another way to express to the people that I'm trying to help that, here's something else that I've done. Here's some other folks that I've helped. It just adds a little bit of credibility to the whole process. And, it's like and trust and credibility that we need to build with the people that we're trying to help in order to help them long term. And so it was a great thing for me. It's something that you pay for. It's not free, but it was something that I jumped at. And Ray Brem certainly is a respected member of the community. And when I had a chance to jump on board with him, I did so. And so, you can write a book yourself, but when it comes down to it, and we'll talk about this later, but when it comes down to the skills, either you got to have them or you got to pay a pro to pull it off for you. And so that's the kind of juxtaposition that every content creator faces. And we'll chat more about that as we progress, but that's where I was there.
Nice. So I would love to hear maybe a synopsis of the chapter that you wrote. I think we talked a little bit about it in the green room before we hit record, and I was kind of fascinated by it, to be honest. So tell us a little bit about this chapter that you contributed to the book and why it would help someone to read that chapter. Like what would they get out of it?
Well, I would preface my statement by saying that I am fortunate enough, as we all really are, to lean on the brilliant minds that have come before us. And, what we really can do, Keith Richards said it best. He says, God wrote the first song. The rest of us, we just rip it off. And so what I mean when I say that is you need to steal like an artist. Okay, give credit to the people that came up with the idea. Give it your own spin and move on. And so here's where I'm going with that. Stephen Covey, 7 Principles of Highly Effective People. One of those principles is seek first to understand, then to be understood. And so that's a great lesson really for communication. I mean, when you're having a conversation with somebody, are you patiently listening, formulating your response, waiting for them to finish so you can say what you want to say? Or are you listening to what they say, what their needs are, what they're expressing, what their real problem is, so that you might be able to either provide some assistance or just be there and listen, whatever's appropriate at the time. So drawing back to my chapter, you've got to go back to the early 70s in suburban Don Mills, Ontario. And Maddie was in kindergarten, and Mom always taught me to ask questions. If you don't know, ask questions. That's how you learn, Matthew. So I was fairly rambunctious. I asked a lot of questions, and the teacher that I had thought the best way to deal with that was to lock me in the closet. So I wouldn't interfere with her lesson structure. So that went on for a while, and I didn't know any better. I just thought that, when you go to school, I got to sit in this dark thing all day. And I really didn't like that. So I didn't want to go. And the arguments would ensue every morning at 8:30. You have to go to school. I don't want to go to school. You have to go. And so, this would go on day after day. And finally, Mom, wonderful woman, said, Matt, why don't you want to go? Why don't you want to go to school? And the 5 or 6-year-old said something along the lines of, it's too dark in the cupboard. I don't like it in the cupboard. I don't want. So Dad went over and had a little private meeting with the principal, straightened him out. When we went into the details of that, I transferred schools, and Mom taught me a great lesson. Seek first to understand. And that's, whether you're in sales or you're in a relationship, it's crucial. So that's kind of where my chapter was coming from. It's applicable to everybody from a retail salesperson to an insurance person to somebody selling professional writing and editing services. If prescription without diagnosis is malpractice.
I love the story. Well, first of all, I'm sorry for you for the story of being locked in the cupboard as a kindergartner. But when you said your dad went over to go straighten out the principal, I'm a dad, and I've had to have conversations like that. Now, thankfully, our principals have always been very good. But man, I was having flashbacks with that. Like, oh yeah, I know how that goes. The teacher does something, and you go, no, that's not okay. So. I was understood by the end of that discussion, I can tell you, very with certainty. But I do
Interesting
also,
how that worked out.
Yes, yeah. Don't mess with someone's kids. That's really the most valuable lesson. But I also love how you focus this chapter on understanding first and listening first. And I think people can tell that. They may not be able to like formalize the thought in their mind, like, I don't know why I like Matt so much, but I just like him, right? And I think that's a lot of it. So to build trust and with your audience, boy, listening first is such a great way to do it.
And we can back that up, Sean, to any communication that you have, any scenario. I mean, if your spouse is upset, you need to listen. You might not necessarily need to provide answers or instructions, but you need to listen and you need to find out why and you need to allow them that space. And I'm not a marriage counselor. I'm nobody's guru. But I've been married a couple of times and I know you need to close your mouth and open your ears.
Yeah, I'm about 19 years in to being married, and I will agree with that 100%. Keep your mouth shut, open your ears. And for all the guys out there, your wife doesn't want you to solve her problems. She wants you to listen. That's just a freebie. I'm just going to throw that out there.
I'm going to piggyback on your freebie and say, guys, there's no place for logic when listening to your spouse's concerns. Logic doesn't play a part in it. Understanding is what you need to provide, not logic. Okay? Listen to it, practice.
Yep. Just understand. That's right. So great advice. We're not a marriage counseling podcast, although I guess maybe we are for just that second. But we'll get back to the book, actually. Let's get back to the subject.
Your experience, right? I mean, that's what it is. You talk about what you know.
Exactly. So I do want to go back to the book and your experiences with the book, because one thing we've kind of mentioned in passing a couple of times is that this book that you were a co-author of is currently an Amazon bestseller. So first of all, congratulations. That's quite a feat. But second of all, talk to me about like, what was the marketing approach to this book? Like, how did you or maybe Ray, how do they handle the marketing to see that much success?
Well, I can't speak for Ray, but I can speak for the many, many mistakes I have made and learned from in the publishing game. And I know that when it comes to writing a book, the first question that you really have to ask yourself is, what are you trying to accomplish here? Well, I want to make a book that makes money. Okay. Doesn't happen every time automatically. And so really for what I've found is that you need to have a proof of concept. So you need to get out there and have a look at what's selling in your area of interest. Are there folks selling books right now in that area? And I'm not talking about, Sly Stallone writes a book, because when Sly Stallone writes a book, millions of people buy it because he's Sly Stallone. That's not a fair comparison. When I write a book, nobody buys it because it's me. It's got to talk. It's got to solve somebody's problem. So backing up to your question, how did it become an Amazon bestseller? I think Ray took a look at what the needs are of society. And he said, is there a need for this kind of information? And then he tailored that approach to the need of the market. And when he did his marketing, he would base it on needs analysis. And so speaking to the problems that a potential reader might face. and how to address those directly and speak to them and show them that the book would solve some of their problems. If your reader is on island A with no food or companions, and island B is a mile away with his spouse and lots of food and his stereo, when you come along and you offer him a boat to get there, he doesn't care what color the boat is. He doesn't care who made the boat. What he does care about is the boat gets him from A to B. And smart marketers like Ray, and Ray, you owe me for this. Smart marketers like Ray understand that and speak directly to the need of whoever you're trying to help. And so that, in a nutshell, really, you get proof of concept. And if other people are already selling and buying in that stage, and then you might have a chance to survive there. Now, that's not to say that you can't write a book about, daffodils in Kentucky. You can, but let's not kid ourselves that it's going to be a bestseller necessarily. You can write it, you can be proud of it, you can have it on the wall. But what's your objective? Is it to make money? Is it to build credibility? Where are you going with this? And so, these questions, again, prescription without diagnosis, malpractice.
Yeah, and I like I like that you focus on the motivations behind, because to your point, you might write a book and your goal might not be to make money from it directly. It might be to position yourself as an expert, so that, again, like you said earlier, so I can have a calling card. Hey, look, I've got this book. Check it out. If you want to learn more, my email is in there. So that's a great tip. And then also, the idea to, with your boat analogy, we're not selling. So many people want to sell features of their thing that they have. My thing does this and it does this, and well, that's great. I'm glad it does those things. Does it solve my problem? That's what I need to know. So it sounds like you guys have a pretty firm handle on how to do that, or at least, Ray and his marketing machine does. So that's pretty cool. Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, nobody cares about the features. It's what they do for you. Everybody, you, me, and everybody else, we jump on Google or we jump on YouTube because we have a problem that we're looking to solve. That's all. I'll give you a quick analogy. I was in the real estate business for a long time. I still have a real estate corporation. And at one time I was associated with a very smart man by the name of Craig Proctor. And Craig, I licensed some intellectual property from Craig for a few years. Very successful guy. And his marketing approach was based on Dan Kennedy's approach. You might be familiar with it. It's not uncommon to one of the books that you offer for your folks, the approach to marketing with the hook, etc. Anyways, long story short, one of the marketing campaigns we would offer is to home sellers would be sell yourself or sell your house yourself and save the commission. And if you're selling a house, you've probably sold a couple in your day, saving $20,000-$25,000. That sounds super sexy. I mean, who doesn't want to do that? So, that's advertised as a free report. And this is not a bait and switch. I'm a real estate broker. I know what it takes to sell a house from A to Z, every detail. I put that in the report. I send that to whoever wants it free of charge in exchange for their contact information. I follow up with them. And inevitably, what happens is this person, the homeowner, is delighted to get the package. They start to look through it. 9 times out of 10, after a few minutes, they become overwhelmed with the abundance of minutia and detail involved in putting this thing together. And they suddenly come to the conclusion that, you know what, I got other things to do. Can you handle this for me? And there I am to handle it. Now, there's a percentage of the folks that will go, Matt, this is perfect. This is the A to Z list I needed. And I'm going to say, fantastic. Enjoy. If you need any help, just give me a call. Now, I've given a lot of value to that person. Do you think that person might recommend me to somebody else? So either way, I've given value and I can't lose. And so that's not unlike what you're doing with your podcast. You share your expertise in writing, editing, publishing freely. You bring on hosts, guests that do the same from different angles, all free for your listeners to get. They can learn. They can tune in every week and learn more about content creation. And if you're listening right now to John and you haven't bought his books, you need to go and buy them. I did last night, and they're fabulous resources. I've got them right here on my desktop. John, you got to hook me up with a referral link or something before this thing's done. And right, so you got to have these things here. But my point is, when I downloaded your books, John, and I looked at them, I thought, okay, now I'm a publisher too, not quite at your level. I looked at them, I said, wow, everything I need to know is here. So I'm the kind of guy that, I need to do it for myself. I'm that kind of guy most of the time. But if it got to the point where I was overwhelmed, I'm going to say, geez, I need a pro to handle this for me. Well, I already have like, trust, and respect for John. Why don't I just hire John? That makes sense. So, guys, have a look at what you're looking at right now. This is today's business model. Give freely of your information. Help people. Sales come later.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And thank you for the free advertising. I just want everyone to know, I did not tell him to say this. This is him saying what he wants to say. But I do appreciate it.
Sure.
So, yeah, so let's switch gears a little bit, because I do want to talk also about your podcast that you have, not specifically content created, content creation related, but still, this is an important part of who you are. And I think it's important to get to know people as people. And it helps that we both love the subject. So let's talk to me a little bit about this Talking Blues podcast. What led you to start this podcast?
Well, there's another, again, I lean on the brains that came before me. I always look to the brilliant people that have done it already, and I try and learn from them. It saves me a lot of time. So in the podcast arena, I have turned to a gentleman by the name of Pat Flynn, SPI. You may be familiar with Pat. And so I'm a student of Pat's. I'm a student of a lot of people's. And so one of the things Pat said is, he said, if you're going to put together a podcast, why don't you choose a subject that you'll be interested in talking about next year or 2 years from now? So I thought about it, and I thought, well, what could I hang around and talk about all day long or all night long? Music, the blues, rock and roll, guitar, bass. So that's, I'm not a professional musician like yourself. I'm an amateur, an enthusiastic amateur, and I get my blues off through my Fender Jazz bass, put on a drum track, and that's how I get off. And so, interacting with other people that are blues musicians, people that enjoy the rich heritage of the blues, people who just enjoy that vibe, talking to those people, hanging out with guests and like yourself, that's what I like to do. That's what I could do day in and day out, and you don't have to pay me. And so that's where the concept of Talking Blues came from. And so that's what I'm doing now. And again, it's not a money-making machine. I was on another podcast the other day, and they said, well, what's your business plan? I said, it's about connection. This ain't a corporate sponsored gig. This note's for you, as my fellow countryman Neil Young has said in the past. So, is it a calling card for some of my other coaching businesses and ebooks and books and videos and talking books? Yeah, but it gives folks a chance to find out who I am, get to like me, and maybe I can help them with something else. And so, hey, beats working for the man, yeah?
Oh my gosh. I would rather I used to work in the corporate world for 15 years. So yes, it beats working for the man. I guarantee you it does.
That's why we're all here, right?
Yeah. And it does take I will say it takes a special type of person, and you're that type of person. I'm that type. And if you're not that type of person, that is okay. I have friends who work in the corporate world and they love it and it's great. And I say kudos to them and I support them, but my clock doesn't tick that way. So,
well, my pop, great man, G.R. Cooper, World War II vet, worked at he was a lithographer, so he worked at the same printing company for 40 plus years. I don't think you can do that kind of thing today. I don't think that's possible. He retired with a nice pension, but he wasn't overly wealthy. I think the concept of going to school, getting a degree to work to make somebody else's fortune is really pretty passé. I think the only way we're going to survive in this century is to learn how to make money while we sleep. And that's what content creation is all about. That's why we're here. And, if you're in the corporate world and you're happy in the corporate world, and you're going to retire with a 401k and that kind of thing, all the power to you. But on the other side, we're content creators. We can't have a boss. We can't take that kind of pressure. We're just creative types. We want to give, we want to teach, we want to learn, we want to be. And that's why we're gathering here today, to share our knowledge with each other and build each other up. So God love you for the corporate people, but that's not what I'm doing.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. So let's talk a little bit more about some wisdom, because you've dispensed a ton of wisdom, even just in our conversation so far, and I know you have a ton of life experiences. So what would one piece of wisdom or like a life lesson be that you could share with our audience? Could be work related, could be music related, could be anything else related, to just help them be better people tomorrow than they are today.
Teach what you know and let trust build naturally. If you're just starting out, learn the skills yourself. I mean, in terms of content creation, if you've got more time than money, yeah, you need to learn how to edit videos and write copy and write sales copy and build websites. If you're coming from a successful business and this is a new venture for you, you got no business editing videos. You hire professionals to get that done for you. The end result, you need to put out an excellent product. Whether you learn to do it yourself or you hire a professional, either way, that's kind of the big crossroads that we all face. I would say, you know what, get out there and make as many mistakes as you can. And that's the way you learn. That's what I found out after a long time. The first time I put my sales team on video just around the turn of the century, I was horrified at my presence on camera. Horrified. And, that's natural. And I had to come to terms with that and learn some details about mannerisms and body language and the way I was coming off, etc. So if you're going to be in the content creation field and you're not comfortable yet, get on camera, get behind the mic, get out there and fail as much as you can. That's how you learn. So I hope that answers your question, bro.
Yeah, I think it does. And to your point, if I can do this, anyone can do it. I that's, learning by failing. That's how you do it. I don't know any other way to do it.
When they send a rocket to the moon, they fire retro rockets. Off this way a little bit. Oh, off this way a little bit. So you're constantly off course and getting back on course. It's never a straight line. And so you'll find that's what life is. I mean, when I was in my early 20s doing rock radio in small town Ontario, living on cheeseburgers and living in a hotel kind of hotel, John, where when you get up to go to the bathroom at night, you put your shoes on. This is the kind of environment that I cut my teeth in. And, at the time I might have said, well, why? I'm working for next to nothing. But these skills, 20, 30 years later, I still have. So get out there, do it. Fail hard, fail big. That's the way to go.
Absolutely. Well, Matt, you're such an interesting guy with such a great background and such a great future as well. If people want to learn more about you, get hooked up with you and what you're doing, where can they go?
Well, at the moment, I would say drop by our Facebook page on Facebook, naturally. It's called Talking Blues. And would love to hear your comments on there about maybe some of the heroes of the blues that you might like us to cover, some of the founding fathers, some of the folks that are keeping the blues alive today, or just what your favorite blues tune is. I mean, I love to chat about the blues, so get on there and tell me what your favorite riff is, what it means to you, what kind of emotions that it evokes, and we'll have a good discourse back and forth. And who knows if you're a guitar virtuoso that studied at the feet of Stevie Ray Vaughan, you might even end up on the show.
Excellent. I will have a link to that, by the way, in the show notes for everyone. Also, I will link to his book on Amazon, so you can pick that up as well. I picked up a copy, so I hope you will too. And so if you, the listeners, enjoyed our discussion today as much as I did, which I'm sure you did, hey, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future episodes. I bring on the best experts I can find in the content creation space. I get them to share their secrets with you, just like Matt did today, so that you can grow your business, so you can become a better entrepreneur and content creator. And with that, have a great day, and we'll see you next time on the Content Creators Unite podcast.